got my hands on a bill that is being prepared. It's been drafted by a Democrat. And it would establish homelessness essentially as a protected class, protecting them from quote unquote discrimination the same way we have laws protecting people from discrimination on the basis of their gender, their religion. And what this would do is legalize homeless encampments across the state of Washington. Not just the encampments, not just the tents, but the RVs, broken down cars. And most alarmingly, it would strip cities of the authority to enforce their own restrictions on homelessness, such has been the case in, for example, the city of Burien. They wouldn't be able to do that anymore. This bill would elevate being homeless to the status of a civil right. That is how extreme this bill is. And it's being shopped around right now by State Representative Mia Gregerson. She's the Democrat who represents SeaTac. And what it does is create new, quote unquote, constitutional and civil rights for homeless people. And if enacted, understand that under this bill, homeless people would be able to live virtually wherever and however they please, so long as it's on public land. Now, this legislation is a response to, for all you nerds out there, I say that lovingly because I'm also the SCOTUS nerd, Supreme Court nerd. This is a response to the ruling in Grants Pass v. Johnson. Do you remember what that one was?
That was
Pop quiz!
That was the Oregon case about camping.
Okay, I mean, you're generally talking about it, yes. What did it do? What did it say that the cities and counties can do themselves?
There was a previous Ninth Circuit case that said that you couldn't sweep basically unless you offered them housing, correct?
Exactly, or shelter space of some kind. And what the Supreme Court said, that's ridiculous. You guys know what you can do at the local level better than what we're going to be able to tell you what to do. So local municipalities, you figure it out. You come up with your own policies. That is the new guidance coming from the Supreme Court. And so people like Mia Gregerson don't really like that. There are a lot of folks on the left, particularly the radical left, who want to stop all sweeps, period. They believe that sweeps lack compassion. It's inhumane, which is ironic because I would argue it lacks compassion and is inhumane to allow people to live outside in the freezing cold, surrounded by human waste, surrounded by drug paraphernalia. I know, crazy. That's how I view these things. But folks, I guess, like Mia Gregerson, do not. Because she now would create under this bill protection from, quote, discrimination based on housing status, which bars virtually any regulation against the homeless. Even, by the way, when there is, in fact, shelter space available. This is in the bill. Many communities within Washington are enacting and enforcing laws that disproportionately impact homelessness or make living in public a crime. These laws are potentially unconstitutional. They're not unconstitutional. Not potentially. We have a ruling. Make it harder for people to exit homelessness. Do not solve the underlying problem of homelessness and waste precious public funds. But what are you doing here? Does this make it harder for people to exit homelessness? Dare I say it does, because you're now giving them even more of a pass to say no to offers of resources. What does this do to solve the underlying problem of homelessness? You do understand that the laws that are there exist to push people into services that right now they're saying no to because of people who take the approach that you do, Mia Gregerson, saying, you can go ahead and do whatever it is you want. Don't worry, we're not going to make any arrests. We're not going to sweep. We're just going to allow you to do whatever it is you want to do on the streets. It is insane. And as defined in this bill, the homeless cannot be subject to, quote, any law, policy, or practice regulating public space that results in disparate treatment or has a disparate impact on people who are homeless. Now, it's that last part, disparate impact on people who are homeless. But if it's enforced against me or against you for having it, then it's fine. We don't have that protection. It says that the homeless have the right to survive in a non-obstructive manner on public property when, quote, that person has no reasonable alternative but to survive in public space and existing shelter facilities within the local government's jurisdiction, that's important, are inadequate in number or are functionally inaccessible. Okay. So no reasonable alternative because a facility, a shelter, is inadequate in number or are, quote unquote, functionally inaccessible. What does functionally inaccessible mean according to the bill? Any idea?
Something stupid, I'm sure.
I'm sure if they ever get around to defining it, I will agree with you. They don't even define that.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
They
worse.
don't even define it, which obviously means all of this would then be open to interpretation. You know what's not functionally accessible for me as a homeless addict? I can't smoke fentanyl at this shelter. It's inaccessible to me then. Okay, I get to live wherever it is I want on public space. And that public space, by the way, that's covered here, parks, plazas, courtyards, parking lots, sidewalks, and this is my favorite, public building interiors. And natural and wildlife areas such as freeway shoulders, like we see that all the time popping up. You get to just live there. I do love the idea that you can set up a camp in a public building interior. I don't even understand that. So you can just pop a tent at City Hall, like inside. That's what we're doing here. It's unbelievable. And so long as your RV or parking or car is quote unquote legally parked, you can go ahead and camp out there as long as you want. Now, what does this mean for some of the smaller mid-sized cities? Because that's what I would be most worried about here. Because let's be honest, in the larger cities, this kind of already exists, right? There's maybe some enforcement, but it is oftentimes, at least it seems, begrudgingly, they decide to go ahead and make a sweep. And that's Seattle, Tacoma, Spokane, Bellingham. That's the reality. But if you're a smaller or a mid-sized city, let's say you are Burien. Let's say you're Sultan, the gem of Snohomish County, or Milton, the gem of Pierce County. Let's say you're in Auburn or a Kent that actually want to do something about this. Well, smaller and mid-sized cities lack shelters. They have shelters nearby in other larger cities. And part of the reason is they don't have any feasible means to establish large shelters. And when they say it has to be, shelter space, what is the bar there? Shelter space for an individual or shelter space for everybody who's homeless in your community? Doesn't say. But this whole idea that functionally inaccessible shelter is somehow not defined, that's kind of a big deal. Now, they give some examples on what would constitute as a reason to say, oh, no, go ahead, you can continue to live outside. They give the example of a transgender woman or a biological male being denied access to the only shelter that's available, and it happens to be a women's only shelter. But they don't allow someone who is biologically male. So good news for you. You can continue to sleep on that public plaza. Go for it. And what always drives me nuts, and you can already tell from the bill itself that Mia Gregerson, the state representative behind this, has no clue what it is she's talking about, is, how it gives legislation has like a little introduction explaining why they're doing something, explaining here's the problem, here's why it happens. She explains the problem of homelessness crisis to, quote, economic hardship, a severe shortage of safe and affordable housing, discriminatory housing policies, the inability to secure gainful employment, and a diminished social safety net. What did she miss out of that?
Drugs.
Yeah. Kind of like the leading cause of the homelessness crisis. Mental health, not mentioned here at all. That's not addressed at all. It's kind of weird to leave that out. And if you really want to know why this is such an extreme bill, you can just look at her actions. Her district has a whole bunch of cities in it. That's usually how legislative districts work. Did you know that?
Really?
I looked it up. It was on the Wikipedia. And in her district, the 33rd legislative district, Burien, SeaTac, Normandy Park, Des Moines, and Kent. Did any city leader from any of those cities learn about this bill prior to me covering it?
I'm going to guess no.
They weren't approached. They were never approached by Mia Gregerson's office, I'm told, by 2 sources. That's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
It's a little bit. So if you want to shine a spotlight on this, because this is an important story, and people, I was talking to very liberal Spike from our sister station, Cairo News Radio. I was on the Jake and Spike show earlier today talking about this. And he goes, you know what? You know me. I'm crazy far to the left. Even he was bothered by this bill, but he said, this can't pass. No one's going to pass. And I said, really? Seriously? You know the Democrats here. You say you're far to the left, but you disagree with this. There are people way farther to the left than you. You think they're going to disagree with this? No, if it's going to pass, it would probably pass in a 2025.
I'd argue we've already passed crazier stuff in this state.
100%. I mean, we legalize drugs. You think they're not going to legalize, quote unquote, homelessness? Of course they are. And the only way to defeat bills like this is to spotlight it, highlight it, tell people about it. This is not a bill that has been introduced. It hasn't been pre-filed. We have plenty of time to kill this thing. But you have to kill it with disinfectant. And what's the best disinfectant?
Sunlight.
Yeah. See? Supreme Court nerds right here. I bet you, who's the justice who said that?
Who said what?
Disinfectant.
I don't know, actually.
Yeah, I don't remember either. Let's just go with Stephen Breyer, even though I know it's not him. So text the keyword RANTZ, R-A-N-T-Z, to 1-800-465-8770, and I'll send you a link to this story. Read it. Read the legislation. I put the whole thing in there. And then share it. Send it to folks. Post it on your social media accounts. If you want to kill this truly awful bill, you're going to have to help me do some of the groundwork. And sometimes it means literally just clicking and sharing, and bam, you've done a lot.
By the way, it was Louis Brandeis that said that.
Oh, there you go. That's who I said.
A fellow Jew.
Oh, there you go. Look at you. That's all you see, huh? That's all you see.
Well, he was the first Jew ever on the Supreme Court, so that's kind of cool.
It's just my Judaism. Ugh, you disgust me.